What is happening, Hexicans? Let's break down this particular video and why cryptocurrency is going to be a competitor to the US dollar. And the CBDC is then going to be a competitor to the US dollar. Now, I'm not just saying this, I got some expert breaking all this down, so I'm going to break that down. Analysis on top of the analysis. Alright, let's go. Let's have a look, alright? Listen up. Oh, and by the way, there's 3 of me because, you know, Hex is now, as you can see, on 3 chains. We're not pulsing yet, so I thought I'll kick off the party with a little bit of pulse. Alright. Let's go. Listen up.
So what are central bank digital currencies? They are not cryptocurrencies. They are digital. They can be kept in a ledger, but it's not a blockchain.
So, central bank digital currencies are not cryptocurrency. I repeat, they're not cryptocurrency. They provide anonymity, you can use them, but they can't be traced in the same manner by you or I by using blockchain analysis, although the issuers of it probably can do it. Think about when you make purchases on like Visa or MasterCard. Can you go back and trace it? Not easily. Can the providers? More so.
The message traffic is encrypted, so to that extent, they are encrypted digital currencies issued by central banks, but they're not blockchain and they're not cryptocurrency.
See, makes sense. But this whole euphoria around cryptocurrency is going to make it, you know, popular if cryptocurrencies are allowed to continue.
Because these are very much controlled. The ledger itself is not a distributed ledger. It's controlled by the central bank itself. The other thing to bear in mind is that these are not new currencies. So if the Federal Reserve had a central bank digital dollar, it would still be a dollar. If the European Central Bank...
See, so it's the same shit, just presented in a different manner. Oh, it's digital now. It's like, what are you looking at when you look at your online banking? Is that a digital dollar? Versus, you know, like a coin, physical coin?
Had a central bank digital euro, it would still be a euro or a Japanese yen, or if Turkey chose to do this, it would be
same
a
shit.
Digital new Turkish lira. So it's not a new form of money or a new currency, rather. It is a new payment system and a new way to hold the money.
New payment system. So it's not going to be, you know, a replacement to Fiat. It's going to be a new payment system. It's going to be more widely adopted. They are hoping if they're going to be running up against something like a fiat dollar, they might create a basket of these digital currencies, and basically your coupons will then be validated or invalidated depending on what the central bank decides you can and can't spend it on. That's my take.
In the sense that it's completely digital. You would have it on your, you know, your iPhone or your Samsung phone or Nokia or whatever kind of smartphone you have. You'd have an app. You would have an account directly with the central bank. I keep some of my money in a bank. I have a bank account. I'm sure we all do. Well, imagine if you had an account with the central bank. And if you want to pay someone, you just go to your app and say, pay.
Imagine that an account directly with the central bank. Ooh. You want to hope you're not on the naughty list, otherwise you will be barred from all transactions globally.
Give the wire instructions, and the central bank moves the digital currency from A to B, but you can...
And remember, it's not cryptocurrency, it's the digital currency that's encrypted, that's digital.
Completely disintermediate the banking system. Today, if I use a credit card, or any of you use a credit card to buy something, the merchant who sells you that, they have to get paid. So they sell that receivable to what's called a merchant acquirer. This is a wholesale financial institution, but they take a 2.5% fee. So if I spend $100, the merchant only gets $97.50. Because the merchant acquirer takes $2.50 for a transaction fee. Then the merchant acquirer bundles all these receivables from all these individual merchants and delivers them to MasterCard or Visa and gets paid.
Middlemen on
and then
middlemen.
MasterCard or Visa takes an even larger bundle and presents them to the banks that issued the credit cards, and then they get paid. And then the bank that issued the credit card sends me a bill and I pay the bill. But you've got sort of 5 intermediaries there. You've got the merchant acquirer, MasterCard, the bank, and myself, 5 parties.
all of which could decide that you are blacklisted if you're going to run with a central bank digital currency type system. Imagine the merchant doesn't like you for some reason. Imagine the merchant acquirer doesn't like you, issues direct guidance to them. Imagine Visa or MasterCard doesn't like you. Imagine the issuing bank doesn't like you. That's in the current system anyway. If the central bank digital currency was going to be applied in this manner, but listen up how it's going to work.
Fees all along the way. It's very inefficient and slow and costly. Well, imagine if you could eliminate all that with just central bank digital currencies with an account at the central bank, and they would handle all the due froms or due tos with no fees or minimal fees.
That would be much easier to account for, A, and also to control people, B.
Well, that's interesting. It sounds efficient and fast, but you would completely disintermediate the banking system. And perhaps eliminate the need for MasterCard and Visa or other forms of payment. So these central bank digital currencies have enormous potential implications for
the
payment system and all the providers in the payment systems, from banks and credit cards to merchant acquirers and others. Now, the question is why? Why are they doing this?
Every single nation in the world, their central bank all being hooked up to one digital asset. Just envision that right now. How insane that is. The reach that they would have as long as people would use it as a payment system. Just imagine. Well,
there are a couple of reasons. So on the one hand, it may actually be more efficient and faster and cheaper, as I described. That sounds good. They're sort of competing with the cryptocurrencies. They know that Bitcoin...
Yeah, see? They're going toe-to-toe with cryptocurrency. Just imagine something that's truly interoperable across multiple chains. Imagine something like Pulsechain with a DEX that can trade across onto Ethereum's chain. Something that's never been done before that I'm aware of for all the ERC20s, not just the one that's coded for the the main trading pair, like Ethereum and whatever version of Ethereum that's been copied over. The entire list of everything. To me, if that does get built, it would encourage cryptocurrencies like that to perform and outperform other cryptocurrencies, thereby encouraging adoption, thereby increasing profits for early adopters, with low fees, correct market fit, hex built on top of it, sort of fourth hex, which obviously acts as the certificate of time deposit. On top of that, you've got almost a bond market built into it with Hedron, HSIs. You've got the derivatives, like all the maxi stuff, encouraging you to lock up for longer periods. It is a direct competition to Fiat, as well as a central bank digital currency. So, will you fold early and bicker and infight, or will you stick around and see what is coming?
And other currencies have some appeal. The central banks do not regulate Bitcoin. Now, some countries have been much more aggressive in the regulation. China and Turkey, in particular, have had very tough regulation on Bitcoin. That's a policy choice. The United States has not, but maybe moving closer in that direction. But whether you regulate it or not, there's no question that a cryptocurrency is a potential competitor to your own form of fiat money or paper money, or, as I said, this inefficient bank payment system that we have.
Yeah, it's a potential competitor, or it could run parallel. Like I've been saying, I can foresee the central bank digital currency being rolled out. I can see the legacy fiat system still functioning. You know, you still can use checks if you want. You still can use credit cards, but there'll be an opportunity to use something that's more efficient. The banks may or may not push it depending on their stance. And then on top of that, there'll be cryptocurrencies. They'll be running parallel as well. And then there'll be the better versions of cryptocurrency. Things like Pulsechain, for example, Hex on Pulsechain. And most probably, I would say decentralized exchanges will probably dominate and crush, because people will eventually realize that they're sucking middleman D over on the regulated exchanges. That's not because of the regulation. That's just purely because, as you saw in that chart before, the more people that are involved, the more fees tend to get scraped off the top from you or I, the regular investor.
So maybe you want to keep up with the Bitcoin crowd and come up with something that's better, faster, cheaper on your own. Okay, that's
that guy's me. He even had the mole and everything.
Probably one of the reasons, but there are a lot of very dark reasons to be concerned. Number one, this makes it much easier to impose negative interest rates. So right now, if I have $100,000 in the bank and I go away for a year and I come back, there'll be a little bit more, maybe 1%. So maybe I have $101,000 because they paid me 1% interest. But what if they have negative interest rates at 1%? Now I put $100,000 in the bank, I go away for a year and I come back and I only have $99,000 because instead of paying me interest, they took the interest out. That's a negative interest rate. Well, if you don't like that, there's a very simple remedy, which is go down to the bank, get the cash, put it in a suitcase or some container or vault.
Maybe there's other options that you can put your assets to work in a chase for yield. What have we been saying over and over again? Have a look at the yield, not relative to dollar value, yield relative to the asset that provides yield on itself. It's crazy.
Bury it in your backyard or whatever, at least you'll still have all your money. You won't make any money, but you won't lose any money either. Well, the central banks know this. They know that they have to eliminate cash.
Oh yeah, man. These financial institutions, central banks, they basically have their own intelligence arms. Think about someone who gathers information, who researches, who analyzes data. I'm pretty sure they hire people, they hire the best of the best where they can, if they don't get poached off to other areas, to conduct this research. So they're not dumb. When I see the stuff on YouTube, it's hilarious, man. Like, it's as if people think no one's watching every single video that's ever been uploaded onto YouTube. Like, doesn't make sense, man. Think larger.
If you want to have negative interest rates, you need to get rid of cash, because cash is an alternative that avoids the negative interest rates. You need to force people into a digital system.
See, we got to go to the cashless society. Dirty cash. You can't touch cash. You might get a virus if you touch cash.
And get rid of cash so that you can hit them with negative interest rates. If you're going to
yeah, you can't be eating meat either. You got to eat the bugs.
Slaughter cows, you have to herd the cows into a pen and get them into the slaughterhouse. So you can think of
think about that comparison. You got to funnel them, yeah? You got to funnel them to the slaughter. Got to herd them.
Central bank digital currencies as a digital slaughterhouse to take your money in the form of...
Hey, look, that's my wallet. It's empty.
Negative interest rates. But not just negative interest rates. They can withhold taxes. They can impose penalties. They can impose fines. They can freeze your accounts for various reasons. Everything about government control and the limitation of freedom becomes...
Oh, yeah. You post the wrong thing and lose your Twitter account. You also lose access to the central bank digital currency. And you can no longer integrate with Visa and MasterCard. And you can't make purchases. And you can't buy a house. And you can't get a job. And then what are you going to do?
It's easier to implement, easier to implement in a world of digital currencies. But it gets worse than that.
Much easier. Much easier. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, right? But this is a top analyst warning us all, telling us all the way it might play out. Whether or not we choose to listen is up to us. All right, I'll shut up.
Central bank digital currency is the last step in the total surveillance state. Because today, I mean, we have digital cameras, they have facial recognition software, they can tell who you are. And people say, well, I'll put a mask on because of COVID, I'll put some sunglasses on, I'll pull a...
They can tell how you speak, and they can tell how your eyes move. They can tell how, basically on this video, my pronunciation of words phonetics. It's crazy.
Ski hat over my head, and you want to know who I am. Well, no, they have digital software that can tell who you are by the way you walk. Gait, in English, G-A-I-T, the way you walk. They have gait recognition software. So again, we're under surveillance by.
This sounds insane, right? This isn't to freak people out. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone already was aware of this. Just bringing it front and center, you know, tying it all together, how it may play out in the future and how you might prepare for it. Basically how cryptocurrency is literally running up against digital fiat, literally running up against a central bank digital currency. And we've all seen so far how the legacy cryptos have performed, and basically how the Gen 2 shit is going to come in and just burn everything, you know, like, I don't know, Pulsechain coming soon or something.
Cameras, digital cameras, social media,
with Hex running on top of it, with a functioning credit system and derivatives already built on top of it, something that almost every other cryptocurrency does not have, with the exception of possibly some DeFi products, but they have huge risk and also possibly die and make it out, which has less risk.
There's very little privacy left. Well, this would be the last step, because if you had a central bank digital currency, then they would know your whereabouts every time you bought something at the point.
Oh, every time you buy something, it's digital, it's trackable, it's crackable, it's hackable. Oh,
to purchase online, retail, or otherwise.
Oh, you bought like, oh, what's this? What are you buying? Why'd you buy that for? Okay. Man, that is so invasive. That is so invasive. They're not doing it now, though. Of course not. Not with Visa and MasterCard, like deciding to make a list on certain purchases. Anyway, another topic.
They would know where you were, what you were doing, what you were buying.
Where you were. It's not creepy. Put it on your phone. Put it on your chip. Activate GPS.
What if you were giving money to an unpopular political candidate?
Yeah, what if you were feeding the truckers, man, with the sandwiches? Oh, sanctioned.
What if you were going to a rally that was protesting something?
Why are you going near a protest area? We've been advised as a protest area, and we can detect your movement on your GPS. You've been geospatial to only XYZ shopping locations. Why are you exiting those geolocations? Huh? We're gonna send the drones in. We're gonna freeze your accounts. Sounds crazy. Doesn't sound impossible to me.
Something about the regime. This is true of every country in the world. It's very true in China, but we'll see the same thing in the United States and elsewhere around the world. So the central bank digital currency is the completion of the total surveillance state.
Surveillance state. I knew he was going to say that word. Oh my God. Just please, Richard Hart, come and deliver us from this surveillance state. Provide us a better option, please. Someone, anyone, provide us. Satoshi, you failed. But Richard Hart will succeed. Seriously, man, like, seriously, listen to this. And not just this, it's across the board everywhere. It has the same narrative. And then you got to detect who is pushing what particular narrative, and then you might be able to figure out where that money is coming from or not coming from.
It allows governments to track you, know your whereabouts, and perhaps arrest you for doing unpopular things, which they would know about, not because you thought about it, but because you spent the money in a form that they can track in real time. So again, I would warn people, central bank digital currencies are coming. I'm not saying they're not going to be here, they are, but they do very quickly turn into this surveillance technique whereby governments can watch their citizens.
Ooh, check out RD's video, man, on central bank digital currency. Something changed, I think, around in 2020 in the amount of reserves banks were actually required to hold. It was actually, I couldn't believe it. It was made zero. So infinite money can be created from absolutely nothing because the reserve requirement is zero. Imagine if I was told I have $10. We can give you a loan to $100 because you have 10%. Now it's like, you don't need any reserve. What would the loan potentially be? Don't worry about what the repayments are, but what could the loan potentially be?
whereabouts and greatly limit their freedoms. And we may have hybrids of what I've described. You may see, as I mentioned, a digital crypto SDR, perhaps backed by gold. So you might get gold SDRs and cryptocurrencies all merged together.
That would be insane. A gold. Hang on, I gotta play that one back. I missed that.
You may have hybrids of what I've described. You may see, as I mentioned, a digital crypto SDR.
A digital crypto SDR.
Perhaps backed by golds.
Backed by golds. Holy shit.
So you might get gold SDRs and cryptocurrencies all merged together. It's impossible to know which one of these forms will evolve.
See, it's not set in stone. It depends on the timeline, what evolves, what doesn't. For all we know, Pulsechain might come along and be a very strong competitor to all of this, providing people freedoms. Another timeline might exist where Pulsechain fails. Doesn't exist at all, Hex doesn't exist at all, and we have nothing, we're funneled, herded into the slaughterhouse.
But we do know for sure that all of them are evolving today. All of them are out there.
Whatever can be thought, can be constructed, can be built. Everything that was ever built, the computer on my desk was assembled because someone thought about it. The parts required to build it were created because someone had a thought. The ability to crack into that computer through the phone lines was brought about because someone thought about it.
This is not science fiction. All these are in the works. All of these have been implemented in some ways and to some extent. So my advice would be...
This is not fairy tales, people. I'm not kidding. You might think I shitpost too much. But you gotta think deeper. Like, this is... I can't help but feel like I was drawn towards Hex for a reason. I think we all were. And if you're listening to this video, maybe you were too.
Think hard about gold, because gold is the only one that's not digital. It's the only one that's not electronic. And if electronic forms of payment lend themselves to surveillance and government penalties and negative interest rates and seizures or frauds or all the things I talked about, fish don't know what water is. They're in the water. They're immersed in it. They're surrounded by it. You have to take a fish out of the water, and then the fish says, "Where's the water?" But when they're in the water, they take it for granted. They don't know. We're in this electronic world, and we don't exactly understand what it's doing to us. But one of the things
we don't even know we're in the Matrix.
It's doing is it's changing the way we think. And this has happened before once in history in the 5th century BC. And this here I'll refer to book 10 of Plato's Republic. It's over 1,000 pages. And I can barely memorize a poem that's maybe 20 lines. How do people memorize a poem that goes for 1,000 pages? Well, the answer is repetition. It was repeated over and over and over again, in gatherings, in public forums, in presentations. You heard it so many times, but the point is, it was not put in writing. Writing really didn't develop until around the 6th century BC, a little bit earlier, but not much earlier than that.
The very first narrative.
Purpose of it was educational, it was didactic. And Plato said, no, we've got to get rid of that system, get into a written system, a linear system, so we can be rational and more scientific. Well, Plato was the transitional figure from an acoustic culture to a written linear culture. Today, and this is my point about Bitcoin.
This is, all right, just clear your mind. Listen to this. Listen to this.
We're going back to the same transition, but we're moving in the other direction. We're moving after 2,500 years. We're moving from a linear written culture into an acoustic culture. You know, you can't go anywhere without hearing music. You see people in their cars with the stereos turned up. The television is, you think of it as visual, but it's really an acoustic medium because you have to really, it absorbs you in.
It's all audio.
To the image which is coming from behind the screen and surrounding you. It affects the brain, affects the way we think. It's more tribal. And as far as Bitcoin,
It's all tribal. Cryptocurrency is all tribal.
Bitcoin's concerned, it was invented in 2009. But if you think of millennials, people in their 30s today, you're 30 years old, let's say, or younger, or even Generation Z, if you happen to be 20 years old, these generations grew up playing video games from the age of 5, maybe younger. Well, in video games, there's money.
I'm literally getting cold chills right now.
There's digital money, not with the invention of Bitcoin in 2009. There was digital money in these video games 30 years ago. And when you play them, you can use a credit card or dollar, basically dollars or lira or whatever the currency is, to buy digital currency inside the game. And they give them different names, swords or thrones or crowns or whatever you want to call it. And you can use that to buy more armies in your digital game, or a nicer house, or whatever it might be. So the millennial generation have been dealing with digital currencies, invented digital currencies for 25 years or 30 years. So when Bitcoin comes along, it might have been new.
There's a conspiracy right there. Remember smashing A and B to get your coins for Mario? You're being preconditioned for digital currencies. Digital currencies.
To the older generation, but it was quite familiar to the younger generations, and that's why they're big adopters of Bitcoin. But my point is, this is not strange to them. This is not new. This is something they've had since birth in video game form. And what we're seeing is really the gamification of finance. We're losing track of what money is. And just to wrap up on this, the society becomes more tribal, less rational.
Where have we seen a tribal, less rational space develop? I don't know. Can you think of one?
Bitcoin will not replace the dollar, but it may destroy the dollar by destroying the concept of money.
Oh, that was fire. Bitcoin, aka cryptocurrencies, may not. Hang on, let's play it back. Listen up, one more time.
Bitcoin will not replace the dollar.
Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin specifically, will not replace the dollar.
But it may destroy the dollar by destroying the concept of money.
It may destroy the dollar by mind bending the fuck out of the concept of money, fiat currency. Imagine the market cap on something like Hex that produces more of itself. Imagine the market on that. That's going to break the coin market aggregators. It's going to be insane, people. It's going to be insane.
Yes, we may get.
That is going to melt faces.
To a point where we don't even know what money is anymore. And that could happen.
We don't even know what money is anymore, because our made up internet money is better than their made up internet money. Signing out.